The Eagles came off their bye week after hearing a lot of noise about Nick Sirianni's job security, them getting totally jostled against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and yet again, the first quarter was a struggle. They didn't score for the fifth straight time this year, and I thought that against a team like the Cleveland Browns, who've had one of the worst quarterbacks in the league so far, at least in terms of play, it hasn't translated to much success. And for the Eagles, this was a disappointing start, but thankfully AJ Brown is back, Devontae Smith is back, and even Lane Johnson is back. And we saw the offense start to click after a quiet first quarter, and they had an opportunity to go up 13-3. However, unfortunately, due to a long field goal getting blocked by the expert Myles Garrett, who leaped over the protection to block it, and former Eagle Rodney McLeod took it back for a touchdown to even the score at 10, all going to halftime. The Eagles fans let them know, and I mean, boo birds were cascading down in the link, and Fire Nick chants were also jeering at the poor coach. But let's face it, they have been in this situation due to Nick Sirianni. And I do appreciate some of the contributions that he's made during his time, but he is on thin ice. The Eagles did end up winning this game 20-16, but it was far too close. They came into this game as a 10-point favorite, basically. And for a team like the Browns to cover that type of spread, the poor quarterback play is telling of itself. The positive sides I can give for the Eagles at this point is that Jalen Hurts didn't turn over the ball and had a relatively clean game despite starting off 0-5 passing. And AJ Brown is back, looked really good in what he was able to do. Devontae Smith is back, also looked really good. And I also think that they had some opportunities on defense against a very poor Cleveland offense. They sacked the quarterback 5 times, and they also were able to basically pitch a shutout. The touchdown, like I said, was a special teams touchdown, and they forced 3 field goals. So massive improvement to Vic Fangio's squad, but again, poor competition, and now we have to see what that translates going on for the rest of this year. Nick Sirianni is already on thin ice still, thinking about just the narrow margin against the Cleveland Browns. He also went and took some time after the game to jeer at Eagles fans heckling him throughout the game. And we know that this guy is a passionate head coach. He has a lot of bravado to him, and you can appreciate that. But he has a very hard time channeling that and putting that into productive energy and time. Now, a lot of players after the bye week were saying, let's bring back the old Nick, the boisterous, loud Nick Sirianni. And I don't think that's really the right time for this, because at this point, this is a really bad look. The fans are really well known in Philadelphia. They know how to let their opinion rain down, especially at the link. But Fire Nick chants have been going on since the offseason. I mean, with that collapse, going 1-6 in your last 7 games, bowing out of the playoffs after starting off 10-1 was embarrassing enough. Somehow you were brought back in to coach this team or be the manager of this team, yet your fingerprints are all over both sides of the ball, making bad gambles, bad play calling. And I mean, there's a lot of Nick Sirianni concept here, despite it being Kellen Moore's offense. I put that in quotation marks because it just doesn't feel like Kellen Moore's offense. We saw shades of that, but it still feels like a very Sirianni offense. And with that, going back at the fans, I thought it was totally classist. And then coming back post-game, hiding behind your kids in the post-game pressure, I thought was totally cowardly. Using them as a shield so then you wouldn't get the hard questions, and then you got a bunch of softball questions, because you knew you can't ask hard questions when he's in the presence of his own children, because you're going to get a reaction out of him. Unfortunately for them, it might be a time that they might be moving by the end of this year, depending on how this goes out. Despite them winning, it didn't feel like a win. It was barely hanging on for a win, matter of fact. But still, this is the weakest part of the schedule. Still some cause to pause, but I'm still very concerned about Nick Sirianni tampering with the Philadelphia Eagles.